a personality shaped by being an athlete and a background in mainstream sports media, I found that the stories I was most interested in telling were the ones often overlooked, the ones that might not otherwise be told, the ones that show the intangible and not just the highlight reel. The Sports Council is about highlighting the great, the good, the unique, and everything in between in the Pacific Northwest sports world. I'm Jamie Council. Thanks for joining me.
You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-City's leader in sports.
Welcome to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-City's leader in sports. I'm Jamie Council, and it might be summer, but we are talking Tri-City Americans, and we're joined by new head coach, 17th head coach in the franchise, Jody Hull. Jody, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Nice.
So it's nice to meet you, even though we talked about through a screen. And Where are you right now?
I'm just outside Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. I got a place on a lake here, and I played junior here in Peterborough, and a lot of guys that I played junior with have made this home in the off season, and during my playing days, that's what it was. And once I retired, this was home, and this was my first, coaching gig was with the Peterborough Petes, the Ontario Hockey League. So the convenience of all that was awesome.
Peterborough is home for you, but Tri-Cities has almost become like a second home while you are head coach. You've spent the past 3 seasons in the Tri-Cities.
Yeah, I did. I come in usually 3 weeks before camp starts, and then I'm there until our Christmas break in the schedule, and then I'm back until the season's over, and then I get to spend summers at home with my family. But it's a great place to live. I love the Tri-City areas. I don't know if it's the weather in general, but I just like the mild winters compared to here in Ontario.
I used to live in Minot, North Dakota, and actually the hockey team there. So yes, the weather here is definitely favorable to that close, or in your case, north of the border.
Yeah, it is. It's this past winter was one of probably the roughest ones here in Ontario in a while. And we were actually pretty mild in Tri-Cities compared to the previous years. So, it's nice, even though hockey is a winter sport. It's nice sometimes to have the warmth. I was fortunate enough to play in Florida for 5 years, where I was wearing shorts every day, going to the rink in shorts. So it was, I've had a little bit of taste of everything over my career too. So but it's nice to be living in Tri, and I think it's a great hockey town.
Absolutely. It's always funny when you go inside the hockey rink and it's warmer than outside. And now that you've had a couple weeks, the announcement came out a few weeks ago. How are you feeling as it is official? You are the new head coach for the Tri-City Americans.
Well, I'm really excited about the opportunity. The team made a transition last year with the ownership group and John Sortland coming in as primary owner. And it's unfortunate that, Stu stepped aside. Stu's a great person. He was awesome to work with. And, I'm just fortunate that I was able to get an opportunity to interview and went through the process with the group. And, I'm just excited about, leading this team, and hopefully one day in the next few years, we're, bringing a championship to Tri-Cities.
Yeah, so for the past 3 seasons, you've been an associate coach under Stu Barnes, and you and Stu go back not just those 3 years coaching, but in Florida, like you mentioned, where you were wearing shorts.
Yeah, Stu and I, we played together in Florida. We played on the same line together for some time in Florida. Our families are close. It's kind of, my wife, unfortunately, doesn't live in Tri-Cities with me. She's in administration at one of the local high schools here, and she loves her job. So she stays here, but she does come back with me when I first go back in August because she has her summers off. So it's nice for her and Stu's wife, Julie, to meet up and get reacquainted over the course of the year. And it's the hockey world's a little bit funny. I'm sure it's like this in all sports. You can not see anybody or talk to anyone for 10 years, but then all of a sudden you see them once, it feels like you've never been apart. So that's kind of was the relationship with my wife and Stu's wife, Julie. So I'm just glad that we're able to keep this friendship and that the friendship has grown over the past 3 years.
And the combination of you and Stu on the coaching staff, over 2,000 games combined and you guys went to Stanley Cup playoffs, something that very few people can say, and you and Stu did that together. So now that he's stepping out and you're stepping in, obviously it's a great opportunity for you and something that you've already done before, which is be a head coach, but it's probably a little bit of a learning curve because you've relied on each other, having that, that cohesiveness the past 3 seasons.
Well, I think that's what helped. I think, initially I reached out, and it was in Stu's second year, about the opportunity, and it happened pretty quick. And I think just because I'd been coaching junior hockey for so long prior to coming there, that it was more of an experience factor for Stu because he was kind of new at it. And, we had a great working relationship, and along with, TJ Miller, we were, I thought we were a pretty cohesive group, and it was a lot of fun the last 3 years. We had a lot of great conversations. There was obviously a lot of fun nights, and there was a lot of not so fun nights, but that's sports. But, I think, like I said earlier, I think our friendship has grown, because of these 3 years working together.
Absolutely. And with that being said, you do keep TJ Miller as well as adding coaches. So tell me a little bit about the coaching staff heading into the 25-26 season.
Well, TJ was brought on board the same time I was, the Tri-Cities. We did not know each other at all, other than name. Never met. We got hired the exact same day. I texted him and asked if maybe he wanted to move in together and be roommates, and he said yes. And we both called a common friend that we each known, a former equipment guy. We called him within 30 seconds of each other to find out, hey, what's TJ like? Hey, what's Jody like? And we got off the phone. It's like perfect. We end up living together for 3 years in Tri-City. So, and we're actually going to live together this year. So it's been a great bond with TJ. He's an up and coming younger coach, and one day he will be a head coach at this level. And then we brought in another younger guy in Ben Assad. We just hired him 10 days ago, and again, just guys that can bring energy to the group and bring energy to our players, and mixed in with a little bit of my passion and intensity in games. I think it's going to be a great staff for the players to work with.
So for the 25-26 season, Jody Hull will be the head coach, and other coaches at TJ Miller and Ben Assad, like you mentioned, just announced to the Tri-City Americans coaching staff. We're catching up with Jody Hull. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here on the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-City's leader in sports.
Krispy Kreme and DC Comics unite for the Superhero Collection. 3 new donuts inspired by Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, ready to save your summer. Pair them with a refreshing infused chiller only at Krispy Kreme now through July 27th. Planning a summer fundraiser? We make it easy for your church, team, or nonprofit. And check your Krispy Kreme app for new treats and deals. And don't forget, military and first responders always get 10% off. Visit us at 2805 Dupertail in Richland. Krispy Kreme, come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
Is your water softener doing its job? At Soft Water Specialists, we understand the importance of clean, efficient water treatment systems. That's why we offer our annual maintenance program to keep your system running smoothly year-round. Our certified technicians perform a comprehensive checkup and calibration to ensure optimal performance and longevity, finding potential problems before they arise. With Soft Water Specialists, you can say goodbye to water problems and hello to hassle-free maintenance. Visit softwaterspecialist.com or call us today to schedule your service. Soft Water Specialists, because we want to make sure your water is working for you.
The fireworks don't stop on the 4th. McCurley Chevrolet's Red, White, and Vroom sales event is lighting up July with explosive savings. New and used cars, trucks, and SUVs, all priced to move with low lease payments, low APRs, and unbelievable trade-in offers. At McCurley Chevrolet, we don't play games or hike prices. Just fair, transparent, pressure-free buying. Don't wait. Lock in your savings and keep the Red, White, and Vroom spirit alive all July long. McCurley Chevrolet, your way home.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at centralindustrialsales.com.
You're listening to Jamie Council on the Sports Council.
We're back on the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports, and we're catching up with Jody Hull, and the new head coach for the Tri-City Americans. And Jody, so in segment 1, we talked a little bit about your transition into the role and a little bit about your background as a coach as well, but not as a player, and you were a first-round draft pick for the NHL. So tell me a little bit about your playing career. It's kind of funny, once you step into the coaching role, it's all about coaching, but you have a long rap sheet on the other side.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to play junior hockey in Peterborough, Ontario, and for the Peterborough Petes, which is a very storied franchise in junior hockey. And I was, like you said, I was drafted in the first round by the Hartford Whalers, which is now the Carolina Hurricanes for people that don't know. And again, I transitioned as a 19-year-old in the NHL my first year, which was kind of unspoke of, back then. But I ended up playing a couple years. I was up and down between the NHL and the American Hockey League, and those things happen. And, I come out of junior as a scorer, but I just couldn't really find my niche at the NHL level for that to happen. So I become kind of a defensive specialist where I was, I'd kill penalties. I would play against the other team's, top lines and be relied on that way. And, and that's, again, at the end of the day, that's probably what enabled me to play as long as I did. I was able to make that transition where, it's difficult for some guys that are, get put in certain roles. If they can't perform, they can't maybe do something else. But I was able to adapt and I ended up playing 14 years in the NHL, 16 altogether professionally, and 831 NHL games. And if people ran into me on the street, they would not know that. I'm a pretty humble guy when it comes to stuff like this. So, but I'm so glad that I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to, play as long as I did in the NHL.
Yeah, so you're naming the things you did. You missed out recording 261 points in that time. But like you said, you're a humble guy, and something that in professional sports that is really mind-boggling to me, where even in, I've moved around a lot in my profession, but you take a look that you were drafted with the Whalers, you've played with the New York Rangers, the Senators, Panthers, Lightnings, the Flyers. That's a lot of different lives that you have lived. How do you manage that, or what is your mindset towards that? Because you are pretty grounded, and sometimes that's hard to do when there's that constant change in your life.
Well, I think that's probably the hardest part, but at the same time, it's you deal with adversity, and it's part of the business, and these are things you're going to have to be able to handle. And I think, first and foremost, I had a great support staff with my wife, and both our families. In general, when things, you got traded or you got sent down or, whatever, it was never, the transitions were never easy, but when you have that support staff behind you, it just made things easier. And, here's a cool story. I was playing in Philadelphia. I got exposed in the expansion draft when Atlanta come on board. I went to Atlanta's camp. or I went to Atlanta in the summer. They said, yeah, get a house, do all this stuff. So I got a house. I got settled down. I'm in a house. We have training camp in Atlanta. About a week before we're kind of breaking and things were going to start to change, they said they were going to go in a different direction, and they put myself on waivers, and I cleared waivers. So I got sent down to their minor team, which was in Orlando. So my wife had a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old in Atlanta, trying to handle that. And I was living in Orlando, and her parents come down and helped out. And I was in Orlando for 10 days. I got traded back to Philadelphia on a Sunday night. I got traded back to Philadelphia, and we were moved into a house in Philadelphia the next Friday. So that's how fast things happen. But, we made it work. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was great that we went back to the same team we just left from. So it was easy for my wife with that transition part, and a lot of people helped out there. But again, those are things you deal with. It's part of the game. And, it's no different than today's players. There's adversity with how much ice time you get, whether you're on the power play, whether you're killing penalties. But if you deal with it the right way, at the end of the day, you're probably going to come out on top, and that's when careers start to really develop and happen.
Tell me a little bit about how you operated as a player. Obviously, we can see your stats, but how would you describe your play and your player personality?
Well, I would say that I was very reliable defensively. I took pride in that. I took pride in not getting scored on. First and foremost, as my especially as my career went along, and I never looked at it as work. I looked at it each day as an opportunity, and whether it was practice, whether it was working out, whatever it was, I took it as an opportunity to get better or learn. And I think that's what's allowed me, actually to make that transition into coaching easier. That I was always willing to learn, even though I wasn't ever played that much on the power play. I always sat in power play meetings just to learn and see what they do and things like that. And I think that just helped me adapt to coaching, a little bit easier too.
That leads perfectly into my next question, is that, you mentioned all the things you went through as a player. You've played in Stanley Cup playoffs. You've won a junior world championship. A lot of things that these players that you're coaching are aspiring to. I guess, how do you feel that all the things as a player transitions and what you pass along to your players, because you have literally been in their skates?
Especially with today's athletes, it's all about your relationships with them. Again, I'm a pretty humble guy. I don't talk a lot about my situations unless I'm asked about them. It's more just getting to know the players now and what makes them tick and what they like to do and what they like to do when they're not at the rink. And I think when you can build that up with today's athlete, I think that's when you get the most out of them. And I think my stuff, again, because the game has changed so much when I played, it probably is a little bit different. But I think, all the stuff that I went through with the adversity of being set up and down and getting traded and, things like that, those things are always there every day for everybody. And, when you can talk about some of those things, they don't realize that. And then you tell them, they're like, holy smokes, that must have been really hard. And it was like, yeah, it was hard, but you manage and you go forward with it. Right. So, like I said, though, the biggest thing is just the relationships with today's athletes, and any advice you give them, you hope they take it. And, again, because I've been through their shoes at absolutely everything from the under 17 to the under 18 to the World Junior to, the NHL to playing in the Stanley Cup finals one year, like stuff people dream of, right? And, a lot of them don't understand that right now because of such the age gap, I think, is so much different. But I know it's things that when I do tell them I've been through those things, that they really cherish.
You guys will be kicking off play for the season in September. So we're going to take one more break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the team and what the Tri-City Americans fans can expect on the ice. When we come back again, we're catching up with Jody Hull, new head coach for the Tri-City Americans here on the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-City's leader in sports.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at centralindustrialsales.com.
Krispy Kreme and DC Comics unite for the Superhero Collection. 3 new donuts inspired by Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, ready to save your summer. Pair them with a refreshing infused chiller only at Krispy Kreme now through July 27th. Planning a summer fundraiser? We make it easy for your church, team, or nonprofit. And check your Krispy Kreme app for new treats and deals. And don't forget, military and first responders always get 10% off. Visit us at 2805 Dupertail in Richland. Krispy Kreme, come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
The fireworks don't stop on the 4th. McCurley Chevrolet's Red, White, and Vroom sales event is lighting up July with explosive savings. New and used cars, trucks, and SUVs, all priced to move with low lease payments, low APRs, and unbelievable trade-in offers. At McCurley Chevrolet, we don't play games or hike prices. Just fair, transparent, pressure-free buying. Don't wait. Lock in your savings and keep the Red, White, and Vroom spirit alive all July long. McCurley Chevrolet, your way home.
Living in a rental shouldn't mean settling for poor-tasting tap water. With Soft Water Specialists, you can have pure, clean drinking water in your home, easily and affordably. Our countertop filtration system removes impurities, improves taste, and fits perfectly in any rental space. Plus, it can produce hot or cold water. No big installations, no hassle, just fresh, crisp water. Stay healthy, stay hydrated, and love your water again. Soft Water Specialists. See why we have a 5-star rating on more than 600 Google reviews. Visit softwaterspecialist.com and love your water where you live.
Listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-City's leader in sports.
We're back on the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-City's leader in sports, catching up with Jody Hull, head coach of the Tri-City Americans. And Jody, we talked a little bit about it in segment 1, that this is your second head coaching job, the first in your hometown, and that was from 2012 to 2018. So what's the hardest transition between being an associate or an assistant coach to being a head coach?
Honestly, there's not a lot, and I've talked to almost all our returning players about things. I'm a guy who likes to be in the locker room when the players get there, again, because that's all I've known. My whole life is being in a locker room. So being in there and talking to them and joking around with them and things like that, like, that's not going to change because that's who I am. The only thing that's going to change now is I'm the guy that's going to be, kind of have the final say and barking out some orders, right? So that's going to be the only difference. They're still going to think, even though I got the head coach title, they're still going to think of me the same way I've been for the last 3 years in Tri-Cities. And for me, I think that's important because I've built a lot of good relationships with some of our players that are returning and even some of the new guys that are just kind of getting their feet wet in the WHL.
Every year is different. They have their ups, their downs, and it has been kind of a different offseason. You've had some big losses as well as the trade of your leading scorer. That's always, a bit much. So what are your thoughts on this upcoming season? It seems like you have a lot of young guys, but guys that are hungry for ice time.
Yeah, I think, we lose a couple guys, but I always look at that. It's opportunities for other guys, right? And, we do have a little bit of depth. We're lucky to have that. And I think all these guys are going to take the next step to what it takes to, be an everyday player and a player that's contributing to our team on a regular basis. And, I'm really excited to see guys like Gavin Garland take that next step in his career, and Savin Verk, and we got some young defensemen, but I think that's important. We got young defensemen that they all played enough hockey that their experience is there for them too, right? So again, I'm just excited for our group and to see what they can do. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be a little different. My coaching style is probably a little bit different than Stu, but not much. But guys are going to be given opportunities, and at the end of the day, it's up to them when they're given those opportunities to what they do. And if they perform well, they're going to continue to get those opportunities. And if they don't, does that mean that they're done getting those opportunities? No, it doesn't. But sometimes you got to give another guy an opportunity to see what he can do in the same situation. So again, I'm looking forward to our group and seeing how guys can take those next steps. And we always call it the process of junior hockey, and that's usually what happens. And sometimes guys don't perform the way they like when they're 16 or 17. Sometimes it takes them 18 or 19, and then that light bulb goes off, and boom, you might be surprised at how a couple guys actually do. And I think that's going to happen for our hockey club this year.
How would you describe your coaching style?
I think I'm a player's coach, but at the same time, I'm firm, but I'm fair. I think, as much as people don't like accountability or things like that in their life in general, I think it's vitally important as, those things, you have those things because that's what makes you both stronger and get the most out of you, if that makes sense. So again, I'd say my biggest thing is that I'm fair, but I'm firm.
So now looking ahead to this upcoming season, let's go through some of the players and talk about the different pieces that you have on the ice. We'll start with the top returners in your eyes, guys that you're just thankful to come in and be able to know what to expect.
If you start up front with the forwards, I already mentioned a couple guys in Gavin Garland and Savin Verk. I'm excited to see what Cash Cook can do. I think he had a bit of an off season last year, and I think he's hungry to prove people wrong that, especially statistic wise. I think he's one of those guys that I've never questioned about his work ethic or anything like that. Just statistically, I'd like to see him make an improvement. I think he will. I think a young guy that was 16 last year, Cruz Paveo, I think he's, again, another guy looking to have a bit of a breakout this season with, in scoring some goals for us. We got an overage forward in Jake Adele, who had an exceptional playoffs for us. So hopefully that will transition into the regular season and he'll be able to, where he left off in the playoffs, get going for us at the beginning of the year. And then, you sprinkle in a bunch of younger guys that are going to be given opportunities. We got a couple of really good import players that are coming in that should add nice pieces to our group. Talking to the other coaches, I always say that, we're not a team that can rely on one or two or three guys to do all the scoring. We got to do it by committee. So I'm expecting things to be a little bit more spread out within our scoring, especially up front. On the back end, obviously we lost, we lose Jackson Smith, but again, it's an opportunity for some other guys to step up. We got a Jacob Vanacek, our first round import defenseman. He's going to be a special player for us. I think he's going to step up and lead the way offensively for us on the back end. We got some, good solid veteran guys back there, and Jackson Adam, Carter Savage, that will add to the group. And then we got another young 16-year-old defenseman, Aiden Bouchard, who's a skilled guy who, again, it might take him a little bit of time to get his feet wet and figure things out. But I think once he does, he's going to put up some really good numbers offensively for us. So, again, I love our group. Goaltending, we're going to be probably a little bit young in net, but I think we got two goaltenders that are going to be competing for ice every game. And it's not just going to be, I don't think it's just going to be a number one guy and a number two guy. It's going to be, they're going to be pushing each other. That's just how they are as people and as players. So I think having a competitive environment for those guys, I think that's what will bring out the best of guys too. And I think our entire group is in that, same situation.
And it's fun to add local talent. You have Sean Lebret, a Spokane native.
That's always neat when you have a local guy that can, step in and play. And again, I think he's going to be given a great opportunity. And, it's always hard for young guys to come in and find their niche in what they are. But if they come in with that confidence that they're, good players and things like that, that transition will be really easy. And, I'm looking forward to some of our younger guys and be given those opportunities and, and see what they can do with them.
Absolutely. Well, that's about all the time we have. Jody, anything else that you want to add?
No, I just thank you for the chat here. I think it's awesome. And again, I'm looking forward to this upcoming season with the Tri-City Americans.
The Americans kick off their season on Saturday, September 20th on the road. It's their 38th season in franchise history. And this episode catching up with Jody Hull, new head coach for the Tri-City Americans. Well, that wrap up this week's show of the Sports Council. Thank you for joining me on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports. A reminder, the Sports Council happens 4 times a month, 11:30 a.m. on Thursdays. But you can listen to this show not just over the airwaves at 11:30 on Thursdays, but also on demand at 1340ESPNradio.com via podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the Sports Council. And it's also available via YouTube. So lots of ways to listen to the Sports Council and support our local sports community. Until next time, I'm Jamie Council. Now we go back to your originally scheduled Seattle sports programming.